to the Metapod podcast, the Pokemon podcast that revolves around the evolving meta that talks not only about events, competitions in the Pokemon trading card game, because last week I think we covered three different championships,
yes,
regionals,
three different regionals.
Big time events that happened in the Pokemon trading card game. But this week, I am astounded. We've kind of been retweeting a lot of the stuff that's been happening over on our Twitter at Metapod TCG, but there's so much stuff to talk about this week. Collectors, players, all of it just for you. But Sean, before we get into the meat and potatoes or the cards and sleeves, I guess you could say, of the podcast, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm feeling better than last week. I don't know. I wonder if all of our listeners have had a similar situation where some bug is just going around all over, at least where I am. So it's
just like the start of winter.
Yeah.
Like we had a pretty decent summer, and like fall wasn't that bad either. And then at least around here in like central Kentucky, like it just started getting really cold some weekends and stuff, and his body just said, nope, don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, so if I cough randomly, it's still like the tail end of whatever it was.
Yeah, that's what I had too. Like I would feel great, but I would still like cough sometimes because like part of my job in sports is
talking.
like PA announcing. Yeah, it's talking, like screaming into a microphone, 3 points, like that kind of thing. And so I'd be like 3, and then I'd be like, I didn't do it
like
in the mic.
Mute the mic real quick, like pointer.
Yeah, just like toss it up in the air.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But whether you like sports or Pokemon, I don't know how I was going to transition that. Anyways, we got a lot to talk about in this podcast today. Starting off with our lovely reviews that people leave. This time it's coming around on YouTube. People are leaving excellent comments on the YouTube channel where we record and post our video versions of the podcast if you'd like to see Sean or Jake in real life. That'd be kind of cool. Head over to Metapod YouTube channel in the description and show notes. But Sean, it's your turn. To read the comment today.
I will read a review. This one is on YouTube, as Jake said. It's from, I think I'll pronounce this correctly, Bureau de Champ. I believe that's how you might pronounce it. So yeah,
we know here on the podcast that you're notoriously better than I am at
pronouncing names. The comment reads, "Thanks Sean and Jake for the Metapod. Spotify showed me my year in review, and you are my top #1 podcast of the year. I had the chance to listen to your stories for more than 2,500 minutes. That is insane."
Quick math, how many hours is that?
2,500 minutes would be like 60 hours.
Oh my God, you're a genius, Sean. How did you do that? I don't know where I would. Let me tell you, that kind of mental math for me, I would have short circuited.
Well, I mean, it's just 60 times 40, Jake. Or no, 40. It would be 40 hours. It would be 40 hours. I flipped it. It's 40 hours.
See, you could have sold it, and I would have never known.
So close.
I would have never known. But thank you so much for listening to us on the Spotify platform and everybody else that listens to on any of their other platforms. If you did get a Spotify wrapped up, I know that happened a couple weeks ago. They started releasing those. But if you got a Spotify wrapped up, I know a couple people were tagging us on Twitter and stuff about how we were in their wrap. Let us know. Love seeing that stuff, especially what all you listen to as well. Even if we're not #1, if we're number 4, number 5, whatever, we still love that you listen to us, no matter how much it is. But Sean, I know you're gonna love all of these topics today. Well, I guess maybe most of them. But anyways, let's talk about this first one, Sean. There's some new boxes incoming for all the collectors out there. So my internet is very slow, but I know that there's new premium tournament collections and EX boxes coming in March. Sean, could you tell us a little bit more about that? Because my internet's not really loading this.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of, premium collection boxes. The first one is going to be a Virizion V box coming on March 3rd. And the other one is, I believe, March 3rd is the first regular product, Gen 9 era. It'll come with okay, so the images they're showing me, sorry, I'm reading this too. Okay. The images they're showing are not the product we're getting. The images they're showing are references. So what they're
Yes.
saying we're gonna get, what we're gonna get is EX boxes. We don't, I believe, the only Pokemon EX promo revealed in Japan is Cyclizar EX.
Hmm.
So I don't know if we don't really know what the boxes will contain. These two, the two EX boxes. So like, I think it could literally be anything. We don't know anything about the new set. Like we don't have nearly an idea of like which cards are being withheld from the main, Scarlet and Violet set. I will say, however, the fact that these are coming out on March 3rd, I believe, in the West, would make
Hmm.
them the first EX cards that appear
Yeah, it's like
before the
the
set releases.
do you remember what the first like VMAX was that came out?
The first VMAX, I want to say, was it? It wasn't Meowth. It might have
Yeah,
been.
I'm
Was
I'm
it?
pretty sure it was the Meowth VMAX that came
Okay.
out first before like
Yeah.
all the other VMAXs. It came out in that box because I
Okay.
remember people were scrambling for that Meowth VMAX box and playing decks with Meowth VMAX, which was a bad card.
Yeah, yeah. So who knows what these will be? Like, if there's two boxes, there's a small part of me that thinks it might be the Miraidon and like the other dude.
Yeah, the Cyclizar.
Oh, that's the name of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I believe that's
Okay.
the other
I
one.
have not played the games, but
You
point
know
being,
what? I
the two
haven't finished the
motorcycle
games either.
Pokemon, the motorcycle Pokemon. Um, yeah, those they could be them. You could
It would
have,
make sense because I
yeah,
mean the sets are gonna be, those two, they're the
yep,
box legendaries, the dual sets in Japan. I mean, we have two boxes, so it makes sense for them to mirror, right? So
yeah,
I mean the Urshifus did it, right? There was the
true,
Urshifu Rapid Strike box, there was the Urshifu Single Strike box. So it just kind of makes sense.
yeah. So I mean, we'll see what it actually comes out with. But outside of that, Jake, there
Hmm.
is another product that is releasing on March 24th. Jake, what is that product?
It is a premium tournament collection. So if you remember the Marty milk cartons, you remember the Juniper milk cartons, we are getting another milk carton product, the same vein as the Marty and Juniper boxes. It's going to retail at $40. And if you do not know what's in this, or maybe you need a refresher because it's been a while since you've seen one of these and opened it up, it contains a full art promo card, which is the main reason that I buy these. And it's pretty much the only reason why I get them. It comes with the full art promo card, 3 holo trainer cards. I don't want to say it's like, because they were different. The holo trainers were different with the Marnie and the Juniper.
Mm-hmm.
The Marnie was the picture of her, that's on the box of her like smiling on the bed
Yeah,
with more Pecco, but the Juniper box was not the picture
yeah,
that showed. It was just a hollow version of like a regular. It was just a different hollow pattern of like a regular Juniper
yeah.
um card. So I don't know what this next one is going to be in terms of what the holo trainer looks like, if they go back to that alternate art style, or if they'll
Mm-hmm.
go to just an alternate hollow pattern. My guess, if I had to put money on it, would probably be the latter, because Pokemon's lazy. Anyways, it comes also with 7 booster packs. It comes with a deck box, which in my opinion is not a great deck box. It's like a deck box that holds a 60 card deck that's not sleeved. If you have a sleeve deck, you can't hold it in, but that's neither here nor there. 65 card sleeves, the same kind of style and material that are in the
Mm-hmm.
ETBs as of late. A large metallic coin, and when I say large metallic coin, I'm talking about like gigantic
Oh, they were
metallic
huge in the
coin.
other
Like,
ones?
yeah, not
Oh,
like the
wild.
quarter size, like these gigantic ones. Like in the Eternatus box, I think Eternatus got a
They
really
got a
big
really
one.
big plastic one, but yeah.
Yeah, which I don't know if people actually have been using
No.
at regionals. Let us know if they have. But it also comes with 2 condition markers, 6 damage counter dice, and a code card. Again, it's the same configuration as the previous 2. We don't actually know what the full art supporter is, but there's a lot of speculation on the boss's orders promo because, the method of this, so they started out with Marnie, they started out with Juniper, and now they've got this next one. Well, if you think about in the past, when Pokemon was giving away those online promos during regional events, like the online challenges, like when they've streamed and given away promos, they've given away a Marnie, they gave away a Juniper. What was the next card they gave out, Sean?
I don't know. Was it
It was a boss's orders.
Oh,
I'm pretty
okay.
sure it was the boss's orders. So this
But
would
it
kind of
wasn't
fit
this
that
art.
method.
It wasn't this
What?
art. It wasn't
No,
this
no, no. It
specific
wasn't.
art.
It wasn't that art. This, what people are speculating is the a leftover trainer card from the Sword and Shield era. Boss's orders. Cyrus hasn't come out. In that terms, it's been unreleased in the US, but we know it exists because it was in Japan. So Boss's Orders is the speculation card for that, and it kind of makes sense as the pattern is going through, because Juniper, that was a different a different professor's research, because we had Magnolia at first, then we had Juniper. So it would make sense.
I think we speculated this too when they first announced this boss, but it hadn't come. We were like, maybe it'll come in one of these, like the milk carton set.
I don't know, but you're probably right, honestly, because we're right about a lot of things in this podcast, right? That's why you should listen to us.
I will say, we'll get to some news later, but the timing for the release of the full art version of this would be a little odd, because I do believe that Boss's Orders is still a deregulation mark card.
Well, it could depend on promos. Promos could have different regulation marks. On Poke Beach, this has an F regulation mark.
Does it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think in Japan it was an F regulation mark.
Got it. So if there is a card with that regulation mark, then never mind.
Yeah, I don't know.
Our set in the Japanese will be.
That gives you a little bit of hint of what we'll talk about later. But we've got some more things.
Jake.
We have so much more to talk about.
The next one is the biggest news.
That is quite, in my opinion, it is the biggest news, because it is something that I have absolutely loved.
Yep.
For a long time.
I'm gonna let you take this one, because I think you have been a proponent of this next piece of news since the podcast started. What is finally happening?
So with the Scarlet and Violet English set releasing in March, revealed for March 31st is going to be its release date. It is going to change up collecting Pokemon trading cards. And there's multiple ways that it's going to do this, but the biggest way, you may have seen this on Twitter, you may have seen us tweet about it. I got so excited for this. For the first time ever, English cards will use the same silver borders used in Japan. According to TPCI, this changes both frames Pokemon TCG artwork in its originally intended border and further unifies the game on a global level. So, Sean, we're getting rid of the ugly yellow border. Why couldn't they have waited for all the character rares? The character rares in the reverse hollow slot that could have had silver borders. But anyways, I digress.
It's this is nutty, Jake. This is the fact that we are getting silver borders, and also look at those energy.
This is also something quite interesting. There's a couple things. We'll talk about the energies real quick. In the energies, they also showed off the basic energies that are going to be in the Sword and Shield set coming out in March. There's an interesting note on here. It says basic grass energy specifically at the top. There is a specific note, just like, if you had a trainer card or like an item, like any sort of trainer card, it says what the card is. This has a little text bar that says basic grass energy at the top. Whereas before, if you're looking at the Metapod, this fire card, it doesn't have that type of thing. It just has energy, and then it shows the fire symbol. So a lot of people are curious on whether or not that people are going to be able to play retro energies in their decks, because they don't have, the specific wording of basic X energy inside of it. Because if the ruling, especially when rotation comes around or something like that, or when we move into a block that is just Scarlet Violet on, right, when we completely move away from the Sword and Shield era, people are wondering if they're going to make some sort of ruling or something like that that you have to have specifically labeled basic energies inside your deck. And who knows, maybe they errata that, you can use the old cards. Like me personally, when I play the game, I use like base set energies. Like I have some first edition base set energies that are, not in pristine condition. They're a little bit beat up. They look like a 10-year-old owned them, but they're still legal, right? Like, and I like using them because they're cool. And some people like using hollow energies. What's the set that's got like the Pokemon on kind of
like the whole, not Hole and Phantom, but like,
oh my gosh, I have it on the tip of my tongue and I can't remember it, and I'm so mad. They're very, very popular. They're very, very expensive. Longtime players and collectors will probably know, and leave it in the comments of the YouTube at least, or maybe tweet at us. But yeah, I mean, that's an interesting thing that's coming in terms of the energies. And then there's also a trainer's subcategory that's going to be moved to the top left of the card to be more visible in players' hands. Right now in the like Sword and Shield era, it's on the top right, but now it's going to be labeled on the top left, just above what the name of the card is. So you see in the examples that PokeBeach provided, right, Professor's Research, Professor Sada, she can step on me. She's got supporter right above her Professor's Research name. So
I think that the trainer one, I think that change actually makes a ton of sense, because if you talk to card designers, right, like people who design cards for card games, they always bisect the card diagonally, right, with like the top left half of the card being one side and the bottom right being another. The purpose of that is when you hold a card set in your hands, typically for right-handed players, I would say, but generally, you fan them out in such a way that the top left corner is always visible. So previously, when it said trainer, it's like, yeah, you can see that it's a trainer, but you can't tell at a glance, especially if you're like a newer player, that it's a supporter or an item or a tool or whatever the card type might be more specifically. So I think this change is like, I think overdue. I think this is like, I think it's a change for ease of play, readability, user experience. I personally think that the energy one is also an aesthetic change for user experience, because there's a ton of cards that will say, search your deck for an energy, or search your deck for a basic energy, or attach a basic energy from the top of your deck, or whatever. And I know a lot of players, like you showed the old energy cards, it doesn't even say basic energy on the card anywhere. It just says energy.
It's just energy.
Right. And all of the other energies, they might say special energy, but like they're still all energy. But at least now, if you have a line of text somewhere on another card that specifically says basic energy, there is no debate. This is what they mean by basic energy. But I think that means that old cards will still be fine, because the only players that would have those old cards are players who you would assume have been playing and know the difference between the energy types. So I think this is just a learning mechanic change.
It's very interesting too, and I actually never thought about it. I have like a bulk set of 60 cards that I keep at my desk and shuffle sometimes during the podcast to get my brain going, and I didn't think about like how you like flush through your cards when you're like doing a deck search or whatever, and how like, yeah, you're right. As I'm fanning through this deck, I do see, the top left corner, and how this new change would kind of help out with that, especially if I was a newer player or something like that.
Yeah, that is why
I didn't think about that.
And that's also why, I mean, this is getting into like card design stuff right now. I've watched some really good videos about this, but that's why the Pokemon card design of having the basic Pokemon or evolves from on the top left makes sense, because it's like, oh, I'm fanning through, I can tell that it's a Pokemon, I can tell what it evolves from immediately without having to pull the whole card out and read some other corner. But yeah, interesting.
Imagine if it was in the bottom right corner.
It'd be awful. That would be terrible.
Anybody who's fanning their deck right now would be like, Jake, why would you speak that into existence? Like, I mean, hey, how dare you?
But that's why they put retreat costs in the bottom right, because the only time that retreat cost matters is when
it's on the field.
Exactly.
Except when you're using Feather Ball.
Okay,
in that you can grab like a Pokemon with free retreat or something like that. Anyways, Nobody uses that card, but we're going to talk a little bit more about the cards because of some of the cards in Scarlet and Violet are changing as well, including the sets. The sets are changing outside of symbols and being replaced by set codes, just like in Japan. So there's a lot of changes right now that are transforming to be uniform with Japanese cards, not including the back of the Pokeball that opens wrong in US cards. But anyways, we'll get there, baby steps. But so if you do not know, if you look at a lot of your cards that you own today in the Pokemon trading card game, to identify what set it's from, you look at the bottom left-hand corner and you see this symbol, right? So, but for like newer players and even, even like older players like Azul, for example, I was watching his stream the other day and he was, looking for a specific card because after the regional, there's new decks and, cards that people had never heard of, like the Articuno, and stuff that came out. And he, didn't have the card and he's seeing it on PTCGO. He can see the set symbol, but he doesn't know exactly what set it is. And he's like asking chat, he's like, hey chat, what set is this?
Yep.
And that happens to everybody. So moving into this code kind of helps out a little bit in terms of helping identify what sets these are from. And I like this better. I mean, I think the symbols are cool. But I think this overall just helps collectors, especially. I feel like identify what set a card is from.
I would also say though, for players, I don't know, Jake, you probably remember like when you went to like cups and like other events where you had to write out your deck list.
Oh yeah,
you would have to write out deck for those players who maybe don't know. When you had to write out deck lists, you'd have to write out the deck list and put the cards and put the set name, but you didn't put the whole name. You put the 3-letter code. So
not only did you have to know what the set was that the symbol was, you needed to know the 3-letter code that went with the set.
Yep.
That you knew from the set symbol. So if that makes sense.
Unbroken Bonds was UNB. Because I mean unbroken, but like there was lots of them that weren't that obvious. Like Sword and Shield was SWSH and then whatever. So the fact that like it's just very simple here. You just can like put down GSV1EN or whatever. And
I don't even know if you put like the G, the rotation symbol.
You may not need it.
You just put SV1.
Yeah, you can put SV1.
The tournament is like it's from D on, right? D to H or whatever.
Yep.
Or D to G. And then, any card that has that, you just put like SV1.
Yep. So it'll be really, I think, interesting. Like it should make it a lot easier when you write out deck lists too, or even type them into something like RK9. So any other
one thing? Yeah, I mean, there's a couple little bit more things in here. People might not like this, but according to TPCI, due to global inflation impacting the cost of materials and production, Pokemon TCG products will see varying MSRP increases in select markets with the launch of Scarlet and Violet series. For example, the price of a booster pack will increase from $3.99 to $4.49 USD. So that, I mean, in my opinion, I feel like this is inevitable, with the skyrocketing prices of everything as of late. But, I think it's notable for people to know of this. But there are a couple other things that are coming in these packs and things like that. With the increase of the price, jumping up in USD at least $1.50, it, quote, in an effort to continue providing a positive Pokemon TCG experience and value, each pack of Pokemon cards will now feature 3 guaranteed foil cards per booster. All cards with a rarity of rare or higher will now be foils. So Sean, you're literally, instead of getting, a reverse holo, which could be a rare, could be an uncommon, could be a character rare or whatever, you're going to get 3 cards that are rares. So not just one, right? And maybe like 1.5, but you're going to get 3, which, I mean, it might be like, it might, always be like reverse holo rare, character rare, regular rare or something like it'll vary because it's a booster pack. But I really like that with the transition, with the increase of price per booster pack, they're like, okay, we're going to give you a little bit more value. We're going to give you 3 foil cards per booster pack.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see like the rarity of that because, I think if it's 2 reverse hollows and then just the regular rare or whatever your pull from the pack is,
Yeah.
like that's not horrible. I could see them doing, if they did 3 hollows, I could see them doing a reverse uncommon hollow, a reverse common hollow, and then your rare.
Okay.
Like you actually and it may be that like your uncommon slot can be upshifted to the. Actually, no, because
To the art rare or something like it.
well,
What's
yeah,
that new
yeah,
rarity?
yeah, the art rare. Yeah, you could have that where it's like you can get upshifted of one of the rares, but it could be like that a common one is one common, one uncommon, and then a rare, and all 3 of those are hollow, and then maybe you mix and match. I don't know because I can't see them giving you 2 rares in a box, 2 rares in a pack, because then it's not really that rare, and like that would imply that they're making the sets that much bigger, which I don't think they're gonna do.
Well, I think it's Weiss Schwartz. So lately, the last 6 months, I've been opening up more Weiss Schwartz. If you don't know what Weiss Schwartz is, it's a card game that has a bunch of like anime IPs. So the animes that you think of off the top of your head, the most popular, they probably have a set in Weiss Schwartz. They give 2 rares per pack. And then on top of that, sometimes they give like, ultra super rares or whatever they're called. It kind of varies by set sometimes. But I don't know. So maybe they do that route that you're saying.
Might.
Maybe they go a little. We don't actually know what that's going to be.
No, we do not.
But we also know that certain products with the inflation in this increase per booster pack will come with additional items. For example, the Elite Trainer box will include an additional booster pack and a full art promo card. So previously we only saw full art promo cards in the the holiday sets, the special sets in those ETBs, but now it's going to be a regular thing in sets, which I actually really like. I like that.
I'll be interested. So I will say, in terms of the price increase, an interesting thing to note, like 50 cents a pack doesn't seem like a lot, but then when you extrapolate that out for 36 packs in a box, that's basically $18 more at MSRP. Now, obviously, people that are buying boxes are typically not paying MSRP. For reference, MSRP on a booster box of Pokemon would typically be $145, right? I don't know, like for any new set, most people are not paying $145. However, that does mean though that whatever the price you're currently paying, say it's 90 or 100 or 110, I would expect that to still have a tack-on effect of like maybe it's like $10 more, right? Like there is going to be some pass-along cost from distributor to retailer to you. So
yeah, I mean, there's only so much that like a card shop can go lower than what they get it from.
So
I mean,
it'll be interesting to see. Like everybody will be paying a little bit more, and it's not insignificant. 50 cents, like it's more than a 10% increase. That's hefty, but yeah, more foils.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, we've gotten a look at the Scarlet and Violet block and some of the Terrastol cards, including the Arcanine Terrastol EX, terrestrialized. It's got a fire Terra type, which, I mean, there are, in the video game at least, Pokemon that get different typings than usual, kind of like the Delta species, if you don't know, back in the day, where like a Charizard could be a water, type of deal. So we'll see if any future cards have that kind of effect on there. I do believe the Arcanine has a Terrastol effect that's basically bench barrier
for itself, but not for any other Pokemon.
I don't know that for sure, but there's a little bit of speculation that the Terrastol is going to be the same for every Terrastol Pokemon, and it's not going to be just specifically this Arcanine. So
yeah,
I don't know if we know that for sure because we just haven't seen enough of them out there at this point when this podcast is recorded. But who knows? I hope that they're not all the same because that would suck, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, they point out that like, look, new set blocks typically tend to be the most vanilla, like new sets. The first
Yes.
block tend to be the most vanilla versions of everything to familiarize people to introduce a new mechanic, and then it gets more and more wild. Like, imagine taking a card from Lost
Imagine
Origin.
putting Mew and Mewtwo GX in the very first base set. You
Right.
know,
Yeah. Or imagine taking back Mew VMAX to, Sword and Shield base set and being like, isn't this fun, kids?
isn't this fusion Pokemon cool? Like all of a sudden,
No.
just
No.
on top of V Maxes
Uh-huh.
and things like that, they're adding Battle Strike or
Yep.
Battle Styles. That would be way too much for small tiny human brain.
Yeah. We are still smooth brain until, at least the first 6 months of a new set.
For all you smooth brainers out there, you're going to have to get used to something else coming up here soon. Because starting on January 20th in Japan, all new and existing Pokemon tool cards will no longer be considered item cards. They're going to be making a new subcategory of trainer cards, specifically called tool cards. Trainer cards now have 4 subcategory items, which are the color blue, usually supporters, which are orange, stadiums, which are green, and then tools, which are going to be purple.
Yeah.
So this is kind of really big news because we don't have, at least at this point, prior to Scarlet and Violet releasing, we don't have much. I mean, that has like tool specific retrieval. We have a lot of item retrieval. So like Irida, for example, if you play down Irida, you cannot grab a choice belt off of Irida because Irida specifically says an item card, which a tool card would be a subset. I would assume that once this becomes legal in the United States and like legal in Japan, there's like some sort of errata that's going to happen.
Yep. It says all new and existing will no longer be considered items.
Yeah, so I mean, your choice belts now, your stuff like that, your air balloons, they're gonna work. Your Mew's Mysterious Tail, you can't retrieve a tool card off of it. You can only get item cards. So
your Pokestop.
Yeah, I mean, it's curious. I wonder if this means that a card like Adventure Bag will become more of like a staple in the trading card game, like Switch, like Ultra Ball, stuff like that. If they're gonna make, a tool card a specific subcategory, right? Adventure Bag was so good in the Sun and Moon era because you could just grab your tools, right? And it specifically was a card to grab tools. And maybe it's not Adventure Bag to say like grab 2 tools, but maybe it's like maybe an errata Adventure Bag or like a different card similar to it where it's like just grab 1 tool or something like that. I don't know. I feel like if you're going to put tools in a subcategory, you need to do something like that for the search in the sets, whether it's the base sets, right, of Scarlet and Violet, or maybe a set after it or something like that. You have to give, some sort of support to that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one where I wonder if they're doing this because they want people to find tools less often or because they want people to find items less often. Because, obviously they're separating it out. And, there's all these cards like the Mysterious Tail Mew. Previously there was like Jirachi. Well, Jirachi was trainers, but like, yeah, there's all these cards that allow you to find items specifically. Anyways. And they say items, and that would be obviously all of them mushed together. The question is whether or not Pokemon feels that tool cards or item cards, which one do we feel is more powerful? Because they can then balance to make it so that, yeah, in the future, we actually want people searching for tools more than we want them searching for items. Because, think about how absurd it is that, Palkia has Irida. And, Mew VMAX now can go grab any one card with Earth and, Seal Stone or whatever. But, like, you have these ways to go grab 2 cross switchers. The fact that you can grab 2 cross switchers is absurd, honestly. Also, the fact that you could like go grab a switch out of the deck so easily with all these like cards, it's like maybe they don't want that to be so easy because once you make finding a card like switch less trivial, then all of a sudden paralysis, being asleep, increasing retreat cost, all of that actually becomes more viable in the format. So I do wonder, like, yeah, I think they're doing this because they want to experiment with making more and maybe less powerful versions of each, but also they want to experiment with like changing which are more accessible in the game and seeing if that changes things.
It's interesting that you talk about power of like almost like nerfing a
Yep.
specific like nerfing tool cards, and I think about it like in this format at least right now, tool cards are used in every deck, whether that's,
Yep.
the air balloons, whether that is the choice belts. Choice belts a big deal
Yep.
right now in the
And it's
format.
getting a
So,
reprint.
yeah, so maybe you're right on just trying, maybe tool cards are really powerful and maybe, my stance on or what I said about like, printing support for it. Maybe they don't need support because the fact that it's an item card previous to this, makes it like over the top strong. That's a very interesting point, actually.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, who knows? But like, it's one of those weird categories where like I would love to pick one of the designer's brains. Just be like,
Yeah.
the fact that you wanted to make it a subcategory says that you want it to be searched differently. Like that the current method of searching is either too difficult or too easy. I don't know which one. I
I
would guess
kind
too
of
easy.
I mean, I kind of like that it is differently, right? Because
Yeah.
item cards. So, I mean, once you branch that off, right? I mean, like stadium cards are different than item
Yeah.
cards inherently. I mean, they're both trainers because like a stadium card goes on the field and it kind of stays on the field. Like item cards don't go on the field. So, like in a gameplay sense, it kind of makes sense because tool cards also just stay on the
Yep.
field, So, I mean, in that sense, as you're making my brain cells churn, my 1-2 brain cells, start getting bumps or whatever, ridges or
Yeah.
what's the joke or something. Anyway,
Yeah, you're getting smarter.
yeah, I mean, getting smarter, getting those gears turning. Finally, it only took 26 years. It's very interesting to see how they're doing this.
I think that analogy you made is actually perfect because I can imagine them sitting down going, okay, what do we want to be the hardest cards to find and what do we want to be the easiest? Obviously, Pokemon and energy should be the easiest things to find. And actually, if you think about it, the hardest cards to find in the TCG currently are actually stadiums. Like,
Yeah, I feel like it is stadiums.
there's like not really a lot of direct stadium search that exists in the current standard format. So that's your spectrum. And the question would be, where do tools fall in that? And I think they, to your point, because they are a persistent effect, that a tool should probably be around as difficult to find as a supporter or it should be tools and supporters right below that, but like somewhere above items maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I agree. I mean, they don't need to be as hard as supporters because a supporter has the limitation of, playing once per turn. But yeah, I agree that maybe they should be the same sort of quote unquote difficulty as something like a stadium because they're there, they can impact for multiple turns, right? They can affect, whether or not you can take a knockout this turn or complete your combo in the turn. So
Yep.
very interesting points that I did not expect to come up in conversation on this podcast today.
We go deep here, Jake.
Yeah, we are the real ones, and we're gonna talk deep because now we're going to go into April. Sean,
Yep.
not only did they announce the tool errata, which we mentioned earlier, but the standard format is going to be officially rotating all D-labeled cards from the standard format on April 14th, 2023. So, Sean, with the new Scarlet and Violet set releasing on March 31st, that means that once rotation happens, we won't have the D block in, this this new set combined with Scarlet and Violet, which is awesome because I was afraid that we were going to have a little bit of both. And to be honest, that's tiring.
I will say, technically standard format rotates on April 14th. Technically, Scarlet and Violet gets like released on March 31st. Technically, locals can do whatever they want. So, like, if you want to get Buck Wild,
is a wild day, you know, like,
you know.
and there's that time. I mean, I know when new sets would come out back when I was playing a lot more locals in like Indianapolis, where like a new set would just come out and like the 2 days later we'd be playing locals, like local $5 buy-in tournament, you know, with the new cards just to test out the new decks. And things like that. So I mean, you're right, you know, you can do whatever you want, but for official Play Pokemon like regionals and things like that, any major Play Pokemon championships that are going on, they will not have the D block. So again, if you don't know exactly what that means and what we're talking about, if you look at your Sword and Shield cards, this started in Sword and Shield. They've got a little number next to the set symbol on, or I'm sorry, not a number, a letter, a capitalized letter next to the set symbol. And probably if you look at like Sword and Shield base set and stuff, they have D, right? D regulation. And so all those cards will move to the expanded format on April 14th when the when Standard does the rotation. So standard format rotation on Pokemon TCG Live, though, for all the people still playing TCG Live, that rotation will go into effect on March 30th, 2023. So you actually will not play at all with the Scarlet Violet cards, I think. Or no, you'll have you'll have like 1 or 2 days. Because you can always open it up like a day early or something like that, right?
Not typically.
Like the pre-release kits? I thought you could always open it on like Thursday.
My guess is that given like it's like going to bring in whole new mechanics, my guess is that they'll go through an update on the 30th. They will rotate everything out because currently you can't play expanded on PTCG Live, right? There is no expanded. Is there?
I think there's like an expanded beta, but it doesn't have all the expanded cards in it. Like you don't have, you know, anything prior to like Sun and Moon.
Well,
I think is what it is. I don't know. I don't play live because it's garbage.
So I mean, my gut tells me that they'll just bring the cards in when they rotate everything out. There won't really be much of an overlap, and then you know. The one thing that I will say, Andrew Mahone, I saw a tweet that he replied to. I can't remember the original, but they did say that it will only be coming to PTCG Live on March 30th, suggesting that the rotation will not come to PTCGO.
Really?
Yes. So
I'm gonna find this tweet.
Yeah. So I will find it. This is me calling an audible on the pod.
Yeah, I have not. I mean, I am addicted to Twitter, but I did not know this.
Interesting. Did he remove the tweet? I don't know.
No. It was from 6 hours ago. It was a quote tweet.
Yes.
From Trust Your Pilot, which we're actually going to show one of Trust Your Pilot's tweets
I can
later.
Share this one here.
Yes. So Trust Your Pilot, who, I mean, kudos to whoever this is because they play TCG Live all the time and they're pretty much the news of Pokemon TCG Live. I don't know how they're still sane. They should get a raise, but they saw, I don't know if this is a blog post or whatever, but an official piece of Pokemon news from a FAQ video. Standard format rotation takes place on March 30th, 2023, 1 day before Scarlet and Violet base sets. The bigger news is rotation appears to only be coming to Pokemon TCG Live, meaning it could also be leaving beta that day, and that's when PTCGO is shutting down. And in the actual quoted part of what TPCI says, I mean, for digital play on Pokemon TCG Live, the standard format rotation will go into effect on March 30th, 2023. This will give players an official platform to test out the new standard format before participating in any person events. And they specifically say for digital play on Pokemon TCG Live. So it's yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting wording that makes me really, really afraid. Because if people get kicked out of Pokemon TCGO, that's crazy. It's been 1 year since Pokemon TCG Live got what is it, announced?
Or came out of beta or whatever. Yeah. I mean,
So I think just announced.
It's I don't know if they would actually shut PTCGO down, but
I don't know.
It's the kind of thing where it's like they can stop updating it, right? Like you
Yeah,
can
I
be
mean,
like,
if they stop updating it, that essentially shuts it down.
Yes.
Right? I mean, that's
It
just an
allows-
inherent shutdown.
but like what they would probably do is they would allow people to like continue logging in. You could play games on the format as it is, but it will no longer receive support. And here's a quick and easy way to transfer your account. And they would probably leave that live for like a 90 days or a year or something.
Do you think that they'll allow us to be able to use Scarlet and Violet codes?
In PTCGO?
Like,
no.
Yeah, I don't think they would.
No.
I think literally the last set of this is I mean
who
this
knows?
Is scary.
It is a little scary, but like it's not like if you're the Pokemon company, right? Like why would you have two online clients long term? You just wouldn't. You wouldn't. And like you can argue whether or not
I totally get that. But if you go to the last thing that I linked in our notes, they don't even do the one thing that they want to keep right. I mean, look, okay, again, trust your pilot. This is what I was noting to earlier. Put out a PSA to Pokemon TCG Live players. Do not play Mew VMAX. If you do not know, as of late, there's been a bug that has been going around in Pokemon TCG Live where the timer just goes on forever. There's an infinite timer that started happening in the most recent updates. And basically it becomes a stalemate on who is going to concede first, right? Whose battery is going to die first, whose mom is going to say dinner's ready or Jimmy, clean your room, right? And it turns out that this bug, that this game-breaking state is caused simply by playing Mew VMAX. And let me tell you, Mew VMAX, a card that is not brand new, been around for a while, is and has been one of the best decks in format, right? So how do you go through testing? I don't know if that, like, I want to know what this like beta testing team or like this development team, like I want to be a fly on the wall in these meetings, because how do you let this go out? Like they put out a product of a Mew VMAX deck that you can put in a code and have a Mew VMAX deck ready to play on PTCGO. Like, how do you allow this to go out? I don't get it.
And I think this is why everybody is terrified that Pokemon TCG Live may be the only option you have to play the game online come March.
Yeah, like if you like okay, let me do some quick research on Twitch right now. How many people are watching the Pokemon trading card game live? Let's see how many viewers there are. There is one viewer, one single viewer on twitch.tv, one of the largest live streaming platforms. Pokemon trading card game, the regular online, is 101 viewers.
It's a slow day. It's a slow day.
Well, I mean, it is nighttime, and like Azul or Andrew are not streaming. You know, those people get like 500 to 1,000 viewers.
Yeah.
But like, there's also the difference. 442,000 followers on the Pokemon trading card game online on Twitch. Pokemon trading card game live, 4,000. Just barely above 4,000. A mere fraction.
I mean,
of the two. I can't believe that this continues. Like, how do you really, oh my God. I'm so mad thinking about this.
I'm sorry. I feel like I ruined your day
I'm not a game developer. I'm not a game developer. I know nothing about it. I know nothing about programming, right? I barely know how to work my own computer, right? But like, I oversee projects. I oversee a department, right? So like, let's say we're making a YouTube video, right? Or like an Instagram video.
Yep.
If I notice that like halfway through, there's a 5-second gap in the video that there's a blue screen, right?
Yeah.
I'm not posting that video until I fix on why the heck there's a blue screen when there should be somebody doing a slam dunk, right? In basketball. And it's like, this either gives me two things. One, they're not like whoever is testing this and whoever is supposed to be testing these before they come out, either one, they're just not checking it, right? They're just releasing it to the world. They program it and they're like, okay, here you go. Like, let's see what happens, right? It is a beta. Let's just see what happens. Everybody can find out for us.
Yeah.
It's either that or they like willingly know and just put it out anyways. And both scenarios are equally mind-boggling to me. Like, I might just not know something about game development, but like, it is so hard. This bug is Mew VMAX. You play Mew VMAX and it results in an infinite timer. Like, what?
Yeah, it is a bit.
What?
Who knows exactly what's going on in the back end there that's causing it, but it is very silly. It's very silly, Jake.
It just I could go on for hours just screaming and yelling my head off, but that wouldn't really get us anywhere.
But yeah, as we were saying at the top of this episode, a lot of really huge changes. We have silver bordered cards coming, and you know what, Jake? I want to know.
Man, that was awesome.
Imagine, Jake. We've talked about this before. We've talked about how we would love to be able to play the silver bordered Japanese foil energy. Remember? And we were like, well, technically that's not legal. I wonder if now they will care. But either way, they will print foil energy in the future.
It probably, just to answer your question, it probably wouldn't because the backs are different.
That's
so you just pull the card out, and even though like the card is sleeved and stuff, and also Japanese cards have a different like, it's like a different weight. Like they feel different in sleeves, in my opinion.
But like they will have foil energy at some point with those silver borders, Jake.
Yes.
So like,
and it's just
we got that. We got a whole new category of cards, tool cards officially.
There was a lot of great news that came this week. There was a lot of cool news and a lot of changes that I mean, three rares in a pack, like 3 hollows guaranteed in every single pack.
Yeah.
I still think that's really, really cool for the average like collector. Like, I mean, the kid the parents buy Pokemon cards for Christmas. Christmas coming up. Well, these cards won't be out by Christmas, but you get the idea.
I will say, for all the kids playing today, now you'll have something to tell the kids in 20 years. You'll be able to be like, back in my day, Pokemon cards were yellow border.
Pokemon cards had these ugly yellow borders.
That's
well,
right.
You may like the yellow borders, and you may be sad to see them go, and I respect you for that because I just don't like the yellow.
I will say, it's iconic, but outdated. I agree.
It is outdated. It's time for a change, and it's time for us to wrap up this week's Metapod podcast, the podcast that revolves around the evolving meta as the Pokemon card game continues to change. We'll see you next time, and keep playing.